Hello YouTube, welcome back to another watch video. Here we are reviewing another diver watch. I really like diver watches. It's just a style that's always appealed to me, as I'm sure you're aware from looking at the watch review videos on my channel. But this is a different type of review in the sense that this is not my watch. Actually, my friend loaned me this watch so that I could make this video. My friend is aware that I have a watch review channel and that I really enjoy the design of different watches and the different critiquing and analysis that I can provide based on looking at these watches and comparing them to watches I own and watches that are on the market and available for purchase. So I'm very pleased to share this watch review video with you guys all today. But first, let us do our wristwatch check. And you'll notice a similarity here. So the watch I'm wearing, of course, is the Rolex Submariner, to which this watch we're reviewing today is a homage watch. So this is the Rolex and this is the Casio. So where to begin with this watch? I've been wearing this watch now for about 1.5 weeks. I've been wearing it when I go to work, when I go to the gym. Basically, I've been wearing it whenever I do any and all activities. This is a tool watch, meaning that it is a watch that is not a luxury watch. It's not really a dress watch, but it is a watch that you can use in all occasions without worry that you're going to severely damage it to the point that you've lost money or you've lost worth, because it is not a very expensive watch. Now, there's nothing wrong with saying that. This is not a watch that's trying to be expensive, but nevertheless it could be considered to be a tool watch. So this is the Casio Duro MDV106, and then the specific submodel name is the 1AVCF. Now, to be specific, this watch has a long heritage. What do I mean by that? It was released in June of 2011. So this is not a new watch by any means, but it is a watch that has gathered a large following online and in the watch community, partly because of really its design. It's a very nicely designed watch. Now, obviously, it shares some characteristics with a watch that it is trying to some degree mimic, but regardless, is a nice watch. And so we're going to go over some of the design details of this watch to help you to understand why it is a watch to be appreciated on its own. So again, kind of the history behind this watch: it was released in 2011. Consider that is 11 years ago, and it is considered to be a dive watch. A dive watch meaning it's a watch that you can wear when you are diving, as in scuba diving, or you can wear under the water. And for the most part, unless you're taking it under severely deep or extreme circumstances, under the water, it is a watch that could be, for the most part, considered to be very water resistant and largely waterproof. Now, interestingly, again, it has a large following online because it actually has some beautiful design elements that we'll go into more detail over. And also, it's a very accessible watch, meaning that it is within the financial reach of a lot of people. This watch has costed around $50 since it was released. I recently did a search on Amazon and I found out that it is not easy to buy this watch. It's not sold directly anymore from Amazon or other large retailers, probably because of its age and the fact that it may no longer be being produced, mass-produced, I should say, by Casio, but it has nevertheless been a favorite of people on online forums, people who appreciate watches and understand the history of some of these watches. Just a little trivia detail about this watch. Interestingly, this watch was worn by Bill Gates, and you can see it in a video where he is on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and you're able to recognize this watch on his wrist. Again, why would one of the richest men in the world wear a watch that costs less than $50? That's because maybe he appreciates watches and understands kind of what this watch stands for and what it can do. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about specifics for the design. So this has a 44 millimeter diameter case, so 44 millimeters across and 12 millimeters in height off of the wrist. That's important to know so you can decide how big of a watch do you want? How big is going to look good on your wrist? Just for reference, the watch that it is in homage to is the Rolex Submariner at 40 millimeters in diameter. So this is 44. I think that in my opinion and in my preferences, watches that are about between 40 to 43 or 44 millimeters looks good on my wrist, and I have a 7-inch wrist just for comparison. Of course, the size and how it is in proportion to your own wrist, varies according to how big your wrist is and also how big you prefer your watches. But you can think of 44 millimeters as a more contemporary design because historically watches were not this large. Now it has 200 meters of water resistance, as you can also see on the dial underneath the swordfish, or in other words, the marlin symbol. And WR, of course, stands for water resistant. Now, looking at this watch, again, it is clearly a dive watch because of the bezel. You can see that time's up to an hour in duration. And you can also see a date complication. It's partly hidden by the minutes hand, but as you can see, there's the date. It does not have a date bubble on top, or in other words, a date magnifier like this Rolex does. So that's a little bit of a difference in its mother watch, if I may call it that. Other design elements, so this has a quartz movement. If you look very closely at the 6-hour mark, you see it says Japan movement. And on the back of the watch, some information about the movement. It does say 2784, and that is the actual name or designation for the Casio quartz movement that is in this watch. And it's powered by an SR626 battery. It comes on, so obviously it's a stainless steel case, and it comes, interestingly, on a black rubber band. Now, you don't get a lot of watches these days that come on a true rubber band. A lot of them come on silicone, but this one is on rubber, which again is better for diving because it's more resilient and waterproof. It's not likely to get damaged by repeated dives underneath the surface of the water or exposure to salty water. The crystal is a mineral crystal, as you would expect at this price point. Mineral crystals are also appropriate for activities where you might accidentally hit the crystal on something because it is more impact resistant than, say, a more expensive material such as sapphire crystal. Okay, and another important detail to note in terms of materials is that the bezel is an aluminum bezel insert. It is not made of ceramic, as some of the more expensive watches such as this Rolex is made of. Now, looking a little bit deeper, or rather closer, at the dial itself. Now, some of this color you're seeing here is due to the overhead light that I have on, but if we look at it more from a natural sunlight perspective, you can see some of that color. And even though it is a black dial, it has a sunburst pattern, and so depending on the angle the light is shining on, it almost has a gray color as well. Now, in terms of what is on the dial, obviously you see the Casio. We already discussed the marlin or the swordfish symbol. Now, interestingly, that swordfish designation is on, according to Casio, and when they put it on their watch, it is a very easy way to tell the water resistance and the fact that it stands for 200 meters of resistance. Even if that text wasn't there, by looking at the marlin, you'd be able to know that. Now, it does have some applied indices. So the hours markers are in circles, squares, and then these two shapes here that kind of make almost like a triangle shape. And again, the design elements are very similar to the watch that it was designed after. Now, in terms of the hands, these are a little bit unique on this watch. So the seconds hand that is ticking, it does have it almost appearing like it's dipped in red color, and it has an arrow. Then it has an arrow-shaped hours hand, and then it has a sword-shaped minutes hand. That is a difference compared to the Mercedes hour hand, and then the almost like a lollipop-shaped minutes hand on the Submariner. Now, These markers have luminosity, or in other words, glow in the dark functionality, meaning that in the right amount of light exposure, if you go into a dark space such as a closet or under the water, these should be lighting up so that you can tell the time. And then that pip is also supposed to light up, or basically glow in the dark as well. Now it does have, now one of the things I like about this watch is that the seconds hand, when it ticks, it points very accurately, pretty much perfectly, at the mark around the dial. You don't see that a lot in cheaper quartz movements these days. A lot of the time they just let the seconds hand move kind of haphazardly, pointing just in a general direction towards a mark, whereas this one is doing a pretty good job at pointing at each mark. And I like that. I think that is a sign of good workmanship and good quality in the watch. Now, again, it does have a bezel here for telling time, and this is one of the features that designates this as a diving watch. It has a unidirectional bezel, and here I'm going to turn it for you so you can kind of see and hear the movement. It's 120 clicks. Now it lines up pretty well with wherever you'd like to position it. It does have a little give in it, meaning it's not perfectly stuck in one position, but it is unidirectional. I cannot turn it in the wrong direction, so you could consider this somewhat reliable if you had a time critical application or something that you're timing and you wouldn't want it to accidentally get caught on something and adjust in the wrong direction. Now, what else about the appearance of this watch? Let's look a little bit closer at the stainless steel. Here you see the lugs have a kind of satin finish, and then the rest of the watch, such as the sides, has more of this polished finish. You can see all the polish that's there. I like the change, or rather the difference in those appearances and the way that this just kind of bevels like that, where it's not a sharp change, but rather it kind of blends in, which is nice. Now, again, this is not a brand new watch, it's a used watch. You do see some signs of wear, such as some kind of marks here on the metal, stuff that I could not easily polish out with a simple cleaning cloth. But overall, it's kind of withstood the time and the use really well. My friend has worn this, of course, in his work, and also riding his bicycle and doing, just in general activities. And it really does not look like this watch is beat up in any manner. Things that you would see in a beat up watch would include, for example, if the crystal had scratches on it, or especially the bezel. Now, the bezel does have a little bit of marking here, but it's really not a big deal. It's not readily noticeable. The crown is a screw-down crown. Notice that it is not signed. It means that the crown does not have any particular emblem. It does have a little scratch there, just from use. So it's a screw-down crown. Why is this important? That helps with the water resistance. It helps to keep water out. So this is how you pull it out to kind of adjust the time on here. And then you could push it in. And remember though, unless you actually screw it back in, water could get into the watch and damage it. So then you kind of just push it in a little bit and you twist it to get it into the correct thread, and then it just threads down nicely, very easily. It doesn't seem like it gets caught on anything. It's very easy to tighten. Now the case back is also screw down. Of course, you'd need a tool to remove this case back. The case back is not see-through, as is consistent with quartz movements. There's not really much that you'd want to see inside there, as opposed to an automatic movement. It has some text on the back that says water resistance, 20 bar, which is the equivalent of 200 meters of water resistance. It says Casio, Japan movement, cased in China. DY, which I'm not familiar with what that means. Stainless steel. It does have the marlin symbol on the back. We already talked about the movement number designation. All right, I'm going to, of course, feature a short clip where you get to see the luminosity in a dark room. so that you'd be able to tell how bright and how long the luminosity may last. But otherwise, this concludes our review video. I would just share a few thoughts and say that I've enjoyed wearing this watch. This watch has been reliable. This watch is a watch that you can wear without worry that it might get damaged or destroyed because it is an affordable watch. That being said, I haven't had any issues with it getting damaged. It was easy to wear even in the office with more formal attire, or you can wear it with jeans and a t-shirt. You can wear it in the gym. I've worn it in all those situations and it has looked good. The only thing I would consider is that just like with the more luxury watch that it's trying to mimic or look like, it can be dressed up. If you imagine that this can be dressed up on a metal band, this could be put on a metal band, maybe an aftermarket band, or even putting it on a leather band. Now, this is a leather band I had at home, so it may not be the ideal leather band for this particular watch, but one thing you may want to consider, putting it on some black leather. I think you could wear this watch with a suit, wear it to a formal event, and it would look pretty good, but perhaps with a type of leather band that doesn't have all this white stitching on here. So that was just a thought I wanted to share with you guys. If you're thinking about this watch, just know that it is a tool watch, but you can wear it and dress it up and make it look really nice. The other thing I was considering that could make it a little more comfortable is to put it on a fabric or a NATO band, and I think that that would also work well. All right, and here's what it looks like on the wrist. Again, it's a pretty sharp looking watch. I really like the contrast that of course is very characteristic of diving watches, that they're very readable. You can see the contrast of course between the dark dial and the light colored, or in other words the white hour markers and the hands of the watch. I really appreciate that design. I'm not a fan of the black rubber band. I will say that that probably is one of the cheaper appearing elements on this watch, because otherwise it's a pretty nice looking watch, if I may say so myself, and putting it on a different band would really elevate the status of this watch. All right guys, thank you for watching this watch review video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to see more watch review videos. Otherwise, tune in next time. You guys have a wonderful day.